it is. Yeah. Oh, really? Because somebody, when they made this big effort before they.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Thank you all for joining, LPC meeting number 5. Mayor and Andrew, as always, if you want to give a welcome.
Everybody's welcome to Gobstown.
Thank you, introduce.
Just a few more weeks.
All right, I'll give it.
And final laugh. You guys have expanded the definition of welcome. Really, you are a welcoming community. Manifested by many different ways.
Thank you.
This will not be a 4-hour 40.
No, we're not, don't worry. So thank you all for joining us, LPC as usual, as well as the members of the public. Members of the public, if you did not sign in, please do so before you leave, or if you want to do it now, go ahead. And then same thing with members of the LPC, please sign in. There's a sign sheet going around, so if you see there's a blank name, please pass it down to that person so they can sign. Let's see, so here we are. So here is the agenda. You should have the agenda in front of you in your packet. We're the typical housekeeping, the LPC code of conduct, the New York Forward timeline. We're gonna provide a public engagement update, and then we're gonna get into the project updates and the evaluation. We're gonna have public comment period, and then from there, we're going to talk about the slate of projects. So following the slate of projects conversation, if the LPC is ready to finalize the slate of projects and vote, that can be done tonight, which would then be followed by an activity to talk through the roadmap for continued revitalization. However, if the LPC is not ready to finalize the vote or finalize the slate of projects, we'll have a continued conversation at LPC meeting number 6, which has been tentatively scheduled for next Wednesday. And then we will have the vote then, and then talk about the next steps for revitalizing the downtown. Okay, sounds good. So if we do decide to vote, the meeting is not over. We still have a little more work to do, okay? Just saying that out loud. Okay, so with the typical, so here is the LPC code of conduct. Each local planning committee member is reminded of their obligation to disclose potential conflicts of interest for respective projects that may be discussed at today's meeting. If you have a potential conflict of interest regarding a project you believe will be discussed during the meeting, please disclose it now and recuse yourself from any discussion or vote on that project. For example, you may state that you or a family member have a financial interest in the project, or you are on the board of the organization proposing the project. I will ask, even though I think we know the answer at this point, does any member of the LPC like to make a disclosure at this time? Thank you, Steve. So we do have the one refusal from Steve in regards to the 143 Main Street project. As a reminder, Steve, when we talk about that project, we will ask that you step out of the room, but then we'll let you know when you can return.
I don't know, 143, the person may ask to be the manager of the facilities afterwards, it's my landlord. I don't know if that's a conflict or anything like that.
But they asked your landlord to be the manager
Of the property after
you stand in, have any
Right.
benefit, then I think you're fine.
So thank you for asking. Okay. So at this point, we are towards the end of the process, which is to culminate with the strategic investment plan being submitted to the state in December. In regards to what is remaining in the process, as you see, we're at LPC meeting number 5, with the potential for one additional LPC meeting, again, depending on the outcome of tonight's meeting. As I mentioned, that is tentatively scheduled for October 29th. Additionally, the consultant has been working on project profiles as well as other elements of the strategic investment plan. So we're moving along in the background while we also continue to have our meetings. So next will be a public engagement update. Yeah, there's a minor dog. Okay, bear with me. Okay. One second. Now. Okay, there we go, I made it. Okay, so as previously, we mentioned, talked about, we set up a booth at Ferry Festa right outside Village Hall, Prime Real Estate. We had 4 boards presenting the preliminary slate of projects, including their proposed condition, photographs, project description, total project cost, and a New York forward request. And then we had an activity, and that activity, we were asking folks to engage in using sticky dots to answer the question, how significantly will this project contribute to Dobbs Ferry's downtown revitalization? Now, on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being not so much, 5 being very. We solicited responses from over 220 people, comprising of residents and non-residents, which you might be able to kind of see in that lower picture. The orange sticky dots were used to signify residents, and then the green dots were for non-residents. 220 responses is great. This is, I feel like, the most that we've ever received in any of our community engagement activities like this. So a really big outpouring of people wanting to be involved in the process and learn more. I know that people were going up to Susan and Lizzie were there, and just constant communication and just constant feedback and things being received. So it was really great. And we also want to thank the LPC members who joined us on that day to help us obtain that overwhelming amount of feedback. So thank you all, and thank you for spreading the word as well. So we much appreciated. So I know you're probably dying to hear the feedback and what the results are, but we are going to share that with you when we get into the actual project presentation. So in a little bit.
Oh, like that.
Everyone has, I know, keeping you on your toes. Okay, so the next, we're gonna talk about the public workshop, so let's just, wait a second, I suppose. Yours also is gonna take off, public works.
Oh,
Okay,
oh, it's
which is,
still one of those updates, isn't
I don't really figure out, I don't know what's happening, but it's okay, it's gonna work. All right, bear with me one sec. Okay, here we are, we made it again. So building upon our engagement efforts at Ferry Festa, we then held public workshop number 2 on October 6th. And at the public workshop, we had asked members of the public to respond to 3 questions that we could see in the colors to the right hand of your screen. What excites you about this project? What impact will the project have on the community? And how significantly will this project contribute to the revitalization of the downtown? Due to the limited participation that we ultimately had at the public workshop, we really focused on pushing out the corresponding online survey to obtain feedback from the public. And so we did push out that survey. Thank you, Ed. I know you had posted it, a few other folks too shared it. We ultimately received 8 responses. Again, we do think it is because of the overwhelmingly amount of responses that we received at Ferry Festa versus just 2 days prior. So we do contribute it to that. But of those 8 responses, folks indicated that they are seeking strategic investment in public spaces, the downtown revitalization through adding amenities, community amenities, improving aesthetics, and diversifying the local businesses to ultimately create a more vibrant, functional, and community-centered environment. So we did get some good information from those 8 folks, and we definitely are appreciative of them. So similarly to Ferry Festa, we'll present those 8 responses during the project presentations. Any comments, thoughts, or anything in regards to community engagement? All right. Okay, so we're gonna go on to project evaluation. So here we go, it's moving quicker this time. It's gonna go on to the next slide, which is the slide that you've seen over the course of our meetings now, starting with LPC meeting number 2, working its way down to the potential LPC meeting number 6. So at today's meeting, as I've been alluding to, we're gonna be presenting to you all project updates. The LPC, we're gonna ask that you use your project evaluation criteria to continue to refine your project list by evaluating projects based on public support. So that's also why we're saving the results for each of the project presentations. So you can take some notes regarding the results. And then if you all are ready, the LPC will determine the final slate of projects worth between $6 to $8 million to be included in the strategic investment plan, and we'll vote. Or if you would prefer, we could continue the discussion into LPC meeting number 6. So just a reminder in regards to what public support means when it comes to project evaluation. The public supports and understands the benefits of the project. Does the public support the project? and these are the things to consider. Does the public support the project? Does the public understand the project and its proposed benefits? And is the New York Forward funding request consistent with the public priorities? So just some things to consider when we talk through the results from our team engagement events. Any questions in regards to that before we get into the project presentation? Okay. All right, so bear with me as we go through the slides. So for the project presentations, you all have a folder of, in your folder, you have a packet of the slides. As Susan is holding up for you all. So we suggest that you take notes during the individual project presentations. As to be conscious of time, we are going to ask that we refrain from project discussion after each project presentation. Rather, we're gonna save that for the end. If that makes sense, we're gonna go through all of the projects and then have that conversation. So that's why I mentioned before, if you wanna take notes, maybe about the public support or the update, then you can use that to point back to during that conversation when we talk about the full slate of projects. Of course, you are more than welcome to ask project-specific questions during that time. When we do present the projects, it's more so we don't want to have too big of a discussion. We want to save that for when we talk about the slate. In regards to evaluating the projects, we unfortunately don't have an activity for you in this meeting. Rather, you're just gonna have to kind of consider those talking points that we just talked through, and the overall results. So basically, keep it in mind as we do have that conversation later on. And then next on the screen is going to be the map showing the 11 projects to date and their locations and their relationships to each other, as well to the year forward value. And I'll leave that for a second. So again, you can just refresh your memory. On the lower right hand corner, those are the area-wide projects. So that's the public art project, the signage project, and then all the other projects you can see pointing to their specific location. All right. So the first project that we are going to talk about is to expand programming space at the Dobbsbury Public Library. And so first, the first slide that you're gonna see for each presentation is actually their existing condition and their proposed condition. So you can see what the improvements ultimately will be under the proposed action. So if we just give it a second, it will get there. I apologize. I don't know why it's so big and slow, but I want to reboot your computer.
It's advancing on there, but not on there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it's on there. Yeah, it's advancing on mine. It's just not, it's just taking a while. Okay. I apologize. I hope it's not this for the entirety of this presentation. So as you can see here, the existing condition is on the left and then the proposed condition is on the right. I do want to note, and I believe I had made this note previously at LPC meeting 4 and also the public workshop. The project sponsors are not held to what is shown in these renderings. These are just to give you an illustrative idea as to what it can look like. So when you see the treatments or where the tables are seated or whatever it might be, they're not held to this. Again, just to give you a good understanding of what it could look like if this project does go through.
Right, but I do,
Is the actual construction, they put in for, that will fill up into, right? And so then when you like that's ceiling, but don't they have a budget line for that?
yeah, so, yeah, so I think I want to be clear is like, yeah, they're not gonna be held to this exact thing, but the goal is still like, they will have an indoor outdoor programming space. It may just not look like that, it may not be the garage, it may be a wall of windows. So that's more the details to be figured out, but like, that is still like the spirit of the project, the description, but like the exact methods are gonna like the ship for the whole line.
Okay, so then going to the next slide, and you might want to follow along in your packet. And move even quicker this time. So as you can see here, the layout of the slides moving forward is that we're gonna have those images and then we're gonna get into this slide. So here you're gonna see the project description, which has not changed. It is to reimagine the Dobbsbury Public Library to allow for an innovative indoor-outdoor programming space through the installation of a glass curtain wall to allow for the extension of programming onto an improved plaza area to expand the library's event capacity. Additional improvements include the installation of interactive art within the plaza, as well as the remodeling of an existing kitchenette space and the installation of a service window to overlook the plaza to serve as a book return and refreshment station for events. Their total project costs in year forward have remained the same, so you can see that there. An update since LPC meeting number 4 was that the project sponsor has confirmed the list of programming to benefit from the plaza expansion. That was a question that the consulting team had, because we were trying to understand who's really going to benefit from this. Are there current programs that are going to benefit, or can you ultimately get new programs out of it? And they did indicate programs that currently use a plaza that will benefit from the expansion would be, and this is not the whole list, they did provide a lot of information, but basically like summer reading kickoffs, craft pop-ups, friends sales and small pop-up tables, outdoor author talks and poetry readings, fairy-con activations and holiday and downtown tie-ins to holiday events. They did indicate that programs that would either expand or improve with this renovated plaza. For adults would be a reader circle, a writer circle, cult classic movie night, sounds fun. For children, and for teens could be baby songs and stories, yoga, cultural celebrations, learn to knit, and so forth. So they did provide that list, just so there's a justification for who's ultimately going to use this space. Another moment you've all been waiting for, on the right-hand side, here are the results. So you could see, this is gonna look the same for every project moving forward. Residents at Fairy Festa, so we calculated the results based off of those who indicated they were residents. Then in the middle of non-residents, and then the below is that combined result. So all of the results for Fairy Festa plus those 8 responses from the public workshop online survey. So as you can see here, dark green is the most transformative for the downtown. The dark red is not at all. You can see here, this project, for the most part, from residents down to the combined, really falls with the community believing that this project would have a strong significance in transformation power in the downtown. Any questions on the updates for this project or just the very couple results, or any of the results at this time? The next slide that we're going to show you, and this is the same, again, same layout for all the projects, it's just that finalized budget. We had wanted to go back to the project sponsors following LPC meeting 4, have them take a look at their budget and finalize it in regards to the funding sources and the status of funds, and that's what you can see reflected here. So again, nothing new for this project specifically. Any questions before we move on to the next product? Okay. So the next project is to expand the historic Pickwick Theater to serve as a cultural and social anchor within the downtown. So here you can see the existing condition with then what they are proposing, and that is a concept of one of the potential options of using that space. Okay. So then moving along, again, just the project scope is to implement the phase 2 of the theater renovation project to increase seating capacity and add lighting and a digital screen to accommodate diverse programming opportunities in the space, such as movie screenings, lectures, indoor markets, performances, and community gatherings. This space also includes the installation of rooftop solar panels. The project cost and your photo request have remained the same from LPC meeting number 4. Some project updates. So the project sponsor provided responses to the LPC questions from LPC meeting 4 regarding operational expenses and revenues, as well as how the rental rates for movie screenings were derived. And this was previously shared with you all. I do have some of that bag of information if you're curious, if you didn't get a chance to read it. So there's that. And then they also had received letters of support and letters of interest for using the space. And they were also able to share that with us as well, which has been shared with you all prior to this meeting. In regards to the engagement results, so as you can see here, pretty much straight across the board, very consistent with 77 to 82% in favor. So meaning that this project has high transformational power or potential in the downtown. And that seems to be the case for residents, non-residents, and that combined result bar graph that you can see in the lower right-hand corner. Any questions in regards to this project? And if I'm going too fast, please let me. Okay. And then again, the next slide that we have here is their budget table. Nothing has changed. Again, we just wanted the project sponsor to confirm that the funding source and the status of funds was good. And for this project, there were no changes. The next project that we have is to rehabilitate the historic structure. Oh, you, I'm gonna ask if you could step out, please.
Okay.
I
Sorry,
know we're not doing discussions, but.
sorry, but thank you. We'll bring you back in a few minutes, I promise. It won't be long. Now someone please remind me to bring it back in. Okay, so the project is to rehabilitate the historic structure at 143 Main Street into a mixed-use building. So you can see here the existing condition on the left-hand side of the screen and the proposed condition on the right-hand side. If you recall, the main purpose of this project is to keep that historic look. So that's why the building facade relatively looks the same, the roof, the peaks, all of that. So they're trying to keep that historic character of the building, and that's demonstrated in this rendering. So if we go to the next slide, the project description, just as a reminder, is to preserve and restore an existing historic mixed-use building to accommodate a ground floor commercial use and an estimated 5 residential units above and below. There is a basement unit as well. Additionally, the rehab building will incorporate passive house construction measures, including all-electric heat pump, heating and cooling, and on-site renewable energy production via rooftop solar. As you recall, this is the same project cost in your code request as of LPC meeting number 4. There are some updates. Again, the project sponsor, in response to LPC comments, questions and comments, the project sponsor did confirm that the 2-bedroom basement level unit will be the affordable housing unit as suggested by the LPC. And then in addition, there was a question about whether parking can be on the site in the rear of the site. The sponsor did confirm that the backyard of the site cannot be used for parking due to the width of that alleyway, as we kind of all assumed was too narrow and you can't necessarily fit cars down there. So these updates were directly in response to the questions that the LPC had at LPC meeting number 4. Before we get to the very festive results, one last thing to note is that additionally, as part of our review of private projects, we assess if there are any unpaid taxes. And so we'd like to note that there are unpaid taxes for this project. However, we have informed the project sponsor and they have since stated that they mailed payment for their village taxes and are coordinating with the town's Department of Taxes regarding outstanding taxes. They are also in the process of reviewing, the project sponsor is in the process of reviewing her mother's files and records. Just as a note, this, the property was formerly her mother's before she passed. So just something to note. We did also check into all the other private projects and there's nothing to note there. And then in regards to just the engagement, results. So for the residents at Ferry Festa, here you can see that it's a little different. There is a variation in responses. With residents, it's leaning more still towards highly transformational, but again, you can see that it's kind of spread across the board here, really for all of the graphics that we have shown here. This is something too that we've seen in the past with private projects. Sometimes the public isn't always comfortable with providing public funds for private projects. Sometimes they can't get past that or understand like the true benefits of the project if it's a private project. So this isn't anything too far-fetched from what we've seen in the past. That's something to know. No, Christy? Hi. Christy. Any questions on this project?
As far as the outstanding taxes go, are we supposed to say we should take care of that before the project goes forward? Or
Yeah, I mean, the question that we went to the project sponsor with is, please, detail a plan on which you would use to take care of these taxes. And so provided information that, the taxes were being paid for the village. And then I think, she said she needs to put some other files. A lot of these taxes were being spent from mother's home. They just recently sold. So I think she's still sorting from her spot, sorting all of that out. But, she's given every indication that the issue was being addressed properly.
Yeah, I don't know, I can comment, but,
May I have the public comment?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Amy, do you have one?
Just like, from personal experience, it's not necessarily uncommon, the unpaid taxes thing, I've seen it with estate sales a lot. Record keeping always is always the best. The fact that she showed a commitment to paying this issue, I bet it stands out for me personally.
And also, I mean, it looks like her finances are pretty much there, so. They don't like they just scraping by, especially if they're selling their house, so. I don't. I mean, we can check it out, but I think she probably has enough money to pay the taxes. Yeah.
Any other, bulk questions about this?
Or do you know how much it is in tax, like, that's their other.
I do, but I don't feel like we're disclosing that at all.
I know, just to Andrew's point, like, it's just so hard when you're inheriting and those definitely fall through the cracks.
Just to personalize a little bit, when my dad passed away, there's all sorts of stuff like that where I was uncovering things all over the place, so. It happens. Yeah, it's a relatable.
Yeah.
Where was the previously, request at 371 and now 459, what, do you know what the significant difference was between?
For the next, for 100.
Never mind, never mind. But we will answer that question.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, one more point, just to kind of germinate people as we go through. Just from everything I see and hear about the government products, housing is a huge part of what she's trying to accomplish. Filtered through the economic development councils, and the municipalities, it's one of the few levers, I think, available to promote more housing. And the fact this includes affordable housing and a passive house, which understand I'm keeping out a little bit on, but I do think that'll attract attention to the town. It's very, very unique in residential construction.
What do we know about that?
So it instead of giving off energy, it's like a net receiver of energy. So it's, I mean, I've seen it, like innovative developers have done it for more than family. I've never seen it in a residential capacity. I'm sure it exists, but that's something that I would imagine would attract a lot of attention, positive attention. And probably one of the more unique ways you'll be able to achieve that, if it's not cheap.
Plus, in the commercial ground floor space is currently not used, so it's a new thing that helps fill in gaps when you're trying to do retail along the stream.
It's got a lot of cool elements to it, I think.
How many residential units are there now, you know, like it says four, right? It says here an estimated 5 residential, so what does that mean, estimated?
So what
I know
that,
what estimated means, but you know what I mean.
So what that really means, and I think it's probably a little bit different from this project, is, as we talked about earlier, a lot of these projects are concepts, this one is much further along, so it's actually gonna be 5 units. Is we know once projects get into full design, sometimes those unit numbers change, and so we just like to, you know, have a little bit of a cushion there to allow for a little flexibility, but I think with this one, you're right, like, it is 5 units. They've got bid documents like ready, so.
I'm surprised they went to 2 bedrooms with the affordable house.
People
don't usually do that.
They're listening to what the LPC.
Yeah, that's
great.
It's
There's the 1 bedroom prior.
It's a base.
Yeah, but the basement, I think, is the back of the building.
Back of it's, yes, it was indicated that the basement will walk out into the backyard based on the topography of the site. So that it gives them, they're gonna have a balcony, so it seems like a favorable unit, as of all of the units that we propose.
You seem like a very committed to the town. Presentation, way of listening.
All right, any other, project specific questions, update, questions, and before we go to their, budget slide? And then we can let Steve talk, because I almost already forgot. Okay, so, this budget table, when it shows up, it is the same thing that you had saw previously. We did have the project sponsor go in and they did, realign some of the funding sources and the status of funds, but really nothing has changed in regards to the funding request or the funding from other sources, so this, still remains the same and as what you've seen in the past. Okay. All right, so the next project is to renovate an existing barn. at 100 Main Street to accommodate residential apartments. And, as you can see here, the existing condition is on the left, and then the proposed condition is on the right. Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you.
Give a second or two to get settled in. We move on to the 100 Main Street Farm project. So for this project, the scope is to renovate the historic barn, as shown in that photograph, at 100 Main Street to add 2 residential units, the old Croton, unit adjacent to the old Croton Aqueduct Trail. So there have been some updates. The scope of the project has changed based off of, comments from the LPC at the last LPC meeting. And those changes are that they have since removed the previous courtyard that was being contemplated, and they are now maintaining the parking on the site. And through that, they are actually able to formally make 6 parking spaces. So that with that, there'll be 2 parking spaces for the new residential units, 2 spaces for the existing units, and the residential units, and then 2 spaces for the commercial units that are all on the site. The other thing that has changed, and Laura, you alluded to it before, is that their project cost has changed. And so their, the project budget, the total project cost, and the year forward request has changed. And that is due to the fact that the project sponsor has revised, again, everything to reflect the change of scope, but then also to cover the entirety of the project scope, whereas previously they did not include the fit out component of their project. They basically limited at that, and they were gonna cover it on their own, but they didn't put it in as the whole project. And that was a recommendation that we had for them. Sponsor also did add in a 10% contingency. That was a question that was brought up at the LPC meeting, either 4 or 3, a while ago. So they did also add in a contingency. So you could see on the screen their project, total project cost previously was $499,000. It has went up to $620,000, whereas their year forward request was previously at $371,000 and has now gone up to $459,000. Any questions in regards to the project?
Could you just go back to the first slide, the image?
This is the rendering, that they originally submitted. We kind of just cropped out the courtyard portion of it. So, I'm not 100% sure if we're receiving a new one or not, but generally this is to still show the same facade, improvements that we're planning to do. Thank you. I read your mind, I knew that's what you're going for. Any other questions in regards to the updates on this project before we talk about the results? All right. So then, as you can see here, the results from Ferry Festa, again, a little different from what we've been seeing. It seems like the results are more skewed towards not being transformational, and that really resonates with residents as well as that combined result. Non-residents are a little more distributed. That is the word. And so you can see there that the results do vary from 27% of not being transformational, but then 30% of being transformational. So, these are the results from Ferry Fest as well as the public workshop online survey. Any questions before we go to the revised budget table? Okay. So, in a second, you're gonna see, so this is a revised budget table, clearly to reflect their increased project costs as well as their increased unit forward requests. You will still see that they are maintaining, putting forward, the same, 26% towards their project. So the near forward request is 74% of the total project cost. You can see here, it is the near forward funds as well as private funds are gonna be put towards the project in future. Any questions, in regards to this budget? Okay. So then next is the transform the vacant space at 145 Palisade Street into a performing arts center. So here you can see the existing condition and then the proposed condition, that Black Box Theater. You can see they're maintaining that, the roof lighting. Skylights. Here. Forgot to, thank you. Long day already, I guess. So, yeah, okay, no sushi. So the project scope, just as a reminder, is to renovate the vacant space at 145 Palisade Street to permanently house a performing arts center. The construction of a Black Box Theater in the space would accommodate multidisciplinary performance centered around dance and community arts, including performance, rehearsal, and education. The project cost in the year forward has remained the same since LPC meeting number 4. However, the project sponsor did provide some responses to the LPC questions from LPC meeting 4 regarding the following. They did provide the methodology behind the direct numbers for economic impact and for benefits, which are shared with you all. The sponsor did confirm that the property owner is not providing direct funding towards their project. However, the project sponsor did indicate that they are in conversation with the property owner to assess opportunities for improved lighting and streetscaping down the roadway. So that was something that was brought up at the last LPC, and they're working with the property owner on that. Any questions in regards to updates?
Does anybody believe the property owner will do it?
Sorry, what was the question?
Does anybody believe the property owner would actually improve lighting on that street?
He's my landlord, I believe that he would eventually, and I think it's already part of what he wants to do, but as it will take time. No problem.
First, you know, vouching, that was gonna happen.
All right, so then, in regards to the feedback from Ferry Fest and the public workshop, you can see here overwhelmingly, a consistent range from 70 to 72% of members of the public, including residents and non-residents, indicating that this project has high transformational potential for the downtown. Any questions in regards to the feedback? Sorry. All right. So then moving on is the project budget. Not really too many changes here other than the status of funds has been tweaked a little bit, understanding that the project sponsor, there are some funding sources here that you can see, whether it is fundraising and private donations or other grant opportunities. We did go through and finalize with the project sponsor the status of those funds. So you could see here, it does say undetermined for fundraising and private donations, so that's something that they're actively working on. And then for the grants, there are some that they have applied for already, and then there's some that they are planning to apply for depending on the application period, and that most likely is going to be in January. So that's what why the status of funds do look a little different.
I just wanna know undetermined is one of the words the state requires them to use,
Yeah.
or like things that are not necessarily where grants haven't been applied for, they don't necessarily have it relatively well anticipated, so that's not a term that the project sponsor uses, just the best way I had from the state.
How do they know about what the capital panel is gonna decide? I mean, so anticipated means hoped for, right?
Right, we don't understand, we
Because
obviously don't know what they're
The
going to.
capital panel, I've been on it, and there's no way that somebody can anticipate the decision of that panel in advance. So I would have a question mark at each of those anticipated.
I think that anticipated would
Unless-
probably be better denoted as requested.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's, you know, if the panel hasn't met.
Right.
There's no, there's no, way to say that they anticipated. Unless, it was sort of in the pipeline in some way, anyway.
No, that's understood. So we'll take a look at that again, and as Susan mentioned, we will update that be requested, and then we'll take a look once through again at the status of the funds for this project, and for all the projects too. We are going through everything that we show here again and again as we then take this information and put it into the project profile, so it's being vetted multiple times. So we'll definitely have eyes on it again after this.
Yeah.
So that is close to $1 million of anticipated or requested funds, right? So when it gets to that point, and say those funds don't arrive in January, would this project just be knocked out at that point by the state?
They are, so, well, just to speak to the other funding sources, is that they are also obtaining a loan from a bank. So that they will have funds, in the event that these projects, or these, other funding sources do fall through. But then we, if there is anything else.
Yeah, so I mean, we've asked the project sponsor, so I mean, as you all know, that this, the strategic investment plan gets submitted to the state in December. We've asked the project sponsor to keep us apprised of anything. And, you know, I convey that to the reviewers and ultimately, you know, that is, you know, incorporated into their decision making. And as we all know, the reason we do $6 to $8 million is if a project can't happen, there is remaining projects that the committee has approved and said to be transferred.
Yeah. I mean, 'cause they have the NISCA, the program grant or the capital plumbing, which they say is undetermined, but in the capital panel, you know, familiar with it, they say anticipated, so I don't get the difference between those two.
We'll have the project sponsor speak to that
Should be
when,
requested for all of NISCA funding. I don't know if that's just a typo or.
yeah. We will update all of that, so we do have
With
the,
the consolidated funding
right,
application, which, you know, again, it's a complex political panel.
Yeah.
So, no.
so for the purposes of the conversation later on, assume that they all say requested.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm just referring back to, the correspondence. So for the CDBG, the application is traditionally announced in early January and they're awaiting this year's, the official announcement of that deadline. So that one is, to be requested.
Yeah,
For NISCA, again, that application is in January, so that would be a 2-year requested. CFA, that application was submitted, in July this past round.
right,
So that would be the statuses of those
Yeah,
resources.
right.
So do any of, those rely on what the outcome of this?
They are independent.
They're all independent of each other. Okay.
All right, any other questions on this project?
I just want to note on the CFA, you're right, you can't necessarily predict it, but thematically, you see trends. Speaking kind of high level on what they typically fund and why. So you could probably back into it. I think their criteria is not totally similar to the things we're looking at. In terms of transformation and ability to move forward, experience, things like that. And then core principles that are coming from the state level, so. That one might be a little bit easier to kind of figure out, I would say, but.
Something to consider. All right. So with that, we are now going to move on to now the public projects. So the first is redesign Lower Memorial Park with new and improved park and recreation amenities. So here, the renderings are just so big, both images, since they're very wide. So we had to stack them unfortunately, but the top is the proposed condition, the existing condition, and then beneath that is the proposed condition. So you can take a second to look at that. I know it's a little hard to tell exactly all the elements. You can see the pickleball courts, an improved courtyard area with seating, the covered bike rack to the left, or storage area for bikes, you can see that, and then in the rear on the right hand side, the new bathroom facility. All right. So the project description is the village proposes to transform the underutilized portions of Lower Memorial Park into a vibrant open space and recreational, amenities by adding amenities such as covered bicycle parking and informational board and kiosk, pickleball courts, a bathroom facility, park benches and tables, ADA accessible paths, and landscaping. And just to note that the basketball court and the concession stand are to remain. There are no updates for this project, and then also just note that the project cost and your photo request has remained the same. In regards to the results from Terry Festa and the public workshop online survey, you can see here, there is the overwhelming majority, 71 to 82% give or take, from members of the public as well as residents and non-residents indicate that this project has high transformational potential for the downtown. Any questions on this project?
Who oversees I think I asked it before and I forget. Who oversees like the bathroom and making sure that's clean or locked or pickleball? The village does.
Any other questions on this one? All right, so we'll go to the budget table. The budget table for this project, and I will note for all of the public projects, has not changed. Any questions in regards to this table? Okay. So the next project is to transform the vacant Gateway property into High Street Park. So here's the existing condition on the left. On the right is a proposed condition. And again, it does look a little bit small, but you can see the retaining wall along the street holding in that slope. At the middle of that slope, there is that viewing platform, and then with the staircase going throughout. Similarly, what is there today, but you can't see it in that.
I don't see any goats.
No goats, unfortunately.
Actually, that would be awesome.
I would, yeah. Oh, because he doesn't like it.
So, just the project description for High Street Park says Goat Park. It is to transform a underutilized gateway parcel across from the Metro North Station into a new public space, naming it High Street Park in parentheses, Goat Park. By installing a staircase and viewing platform facing the Hudson River and a sustainable meadow and landscaping. The project request and the project cost in your photo request has remained the same from what you've seen in the past, and there are no updates for this project since OPC moving number 4. And then similarly, what we just saw from Memorial Park, this project also has the overwhelmingly majority of folks indicating that this project has a high potential to transform the downtown, ranging from 54 to 67%, as you can see here.
I think one thing that else I want to note about this is, the retaining wall and some of the project also includes trying to reduce the grade of that slope so that it can be maintained long term and that like the equipment can get up there. So that's part of like this project as well, and that, that cost.
And that is what is then shown on the next slide, which is the budget table. So to Susan's point, the project is costly due to the topography on the site. That is a little bit of a challenge for the village. Any questions on this project?
I was working at the booth
Oh,
at
yeah.
Fairy Festa, and so many people were like, "Where's this?" And I was like, "Do you remember the boats?" And everyone was like, "Oh, okay." So
Goat park.
yeah, as soon as I said that, they can picture what.
Well, that helped at least.
Yeah.
Go park, dude, it's something. Keep saying it and maybe it'll happen.
Sydney Harbor in Australia has Goat Island.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the picture, brother?
I did not know that. Yeah, because
Was it great?
Give it a second. There you
I wish you put that existing condition.
go. No advocate.
No advocating, sorry,
Yeah.
So you said there was retaining wall in there already?
Don't be
I'll
involved,
advocate
it's
for it.
producing a lot of photosynthesis.
True.
With the green,
The green space.
And I know one of the major concerns is just the amount of invasive species that have taken over, so that is one of the big concerns, and through the meadow, it's really gonna help to eradicate most of that invasive species, which obviously is a good thing and beneficial.
What was the negative feedback? It scored a little bit lower than the other.
the pickleball lobby is
Yeah.
boosting the Memorial Park one.
They're intense.
Yeah, so there's no pickleball on this.
Right. So.
But I think in general, I think, for at least all of us the whole time, it's just the one that's furthest away, like Parks and Leewise to the downtown, so that. I mean, it's right next to the train. It's a good part of that.
From Goat Park?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the pickleball courts are the thing that when people come into the coffee shop, they ask me the most about, by a long shot.
Where's the pickleball? Oh.
Unless you're a neighbor.
Yeah,
Then I go like that.
I'm sure the next.
The barn houses.
sure the Nike duty is, people don't realize that
Yeah.
that is a piece of land that can create park.
I think that's
We overlook that.
What? Like people
It's
just
just enough.
really realize, I mean, some people ask me, where is that? But I think some people did it, like, couldn't picture where it was,
Yeah.
and if you're not like commuting or you're not there, like, you might not notice it. Whereas like the other projects in the downtown, you know what they are.
I mean, how could you notice this? Look at the train when you see trees.
Yeah.
This is actually made almost like a destination.
But we can't advocate for it.
She can.
Those
Okay.
who die-
I know.
I want those pictures, damn it.
Any other questions on this project specifically? Before we continue? And again, we're going to talk about all these projects when we talk about the Slater project, so I'm not trying to stop you from project discussion, but we are gonna have this in a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so the next project is to install public health throughout the downtown to create a vibrant streetscape. So here you can see, basically right down the block from High Street Park is that retaining wall that is in front of, it's fronting the train station. So the existing condition and then the proposed condition, is ultimately to put a mural on that retaining wall.
This is just a placeholder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
So,
That's a little historic.
Oh.
That's a whole other thing.
So, just a reminder, so the project, the proposed scope includes to install murals of varying sizes, a sculpture and painted crosswalk designed at the Old Croton Aqueduct Trail intersections within the downtown to enhance the downtown's visual identity, highlight local history and culture, and transform building facades and streets into works of art. The project cost and the project request have remained the same, and there are no updates on this project. So you can see here, this is just something to note too from what we've seen in other communities in previous rounds. The community doesn't always necessarily understand the benefits of art projects, signage projects. So you can see here, that's why the results are kind of distributed the way they are. Residents are leaning still towards that it is going to have that transformational potential. But again, you can see that the results are kind of varied for them as well as non-residents also. Any thoughts on this project at this point or the results? Or if you heard anything?
Well, a few people were like, oh, I feel like you could get someone to donate, an artist to donate their time. That was a comment that I heard.
Because artists love.
I know.
Yeah.
So many people are like,
I can't gladly finger. Yeah.
We gotta do it right.
some people, were like, this is the other project, and I did say, you might wanna also consider, the project cost versus the other, but,
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of people don't recognize that, like, that eyesore that's there right now, so,
Well, it will have to be painted or something,
yeah.
even if it's not all the subject.
But just prepping that for a mural,
Okay.
bigger cost than
Sure.
the mural itself.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a significant effort to do that.
Is there any source of funding through art organizations and stuff for something like this?
It could be, we're looking into that.
Yeah, we looked like a month or two ago, and there wasn't at that time, but could be still by the time you come up.
We spoke of all the members talking about.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
All right, any other thoughts or questions on this first question? You'll say thoughts. Any questions on this one? Okay, so let's go to the funding table. Again, nothing has changed with this project. The budget table that you see here, this is the same kind of consideration. Any questions on this budget table? All right, so we'll go to the next project, which is to implement a unified downtown signage system to improve multimodal wayfinding. So here you can see the existing condition, which is the driveway right next to where we are, and then the proposed condition. So you can see the wayfinding signage directing folks to key landmarks within the downtown, and then that painted crosswalk really delineating the OCA trail.
Just a question on this. Are we allowed to have that kind of thing for?
I think we can, I'll agree, it may not be exactly like that, but it will be something that.
Remember, sometimes the DOT has.
Yeah, well, the chief of police has issues sometimes with powers, but I think ultimately that's something there that satisfying. I don't know.
No, it should be first one, they're saying, how do you do it now?
Well, does DOT have, does their regulation apply to this, to Elm Street?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, the only issue was the police chief, his concerns with what, how the cost structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always the concern, right? That's a concern, yeah.
I think it's interesting that the AI like upgraded the buildings around it, even the barn.
Yeah, what's the barn?
Like the AI renovated the park. The AI knows how to follow the barn.
All right, so if we move on, just a reminder of the project scope. It is to install a unified downtown signage system with a consistent branding such as gateway, directional, and informational signs that create a recognizable identity for downtown and guide residents and visitors to the downtown's commercial corridors, the Metro North Station, recreational areas, cultural and historic landmarks, parking facilities, and other key destinations. The project cost and the New York Florida request has remained the same from LPCD number 4, and there are no project updates. As I alluded to on the previous project, the same thing here. A lot of the time, the public, again, doesn't understand the importance or the benefits of signage projects. So that's why you see that the results here are skewed a little bit, or not skewed, but more so distributed across the range here. But still, it looks like for the most part, it's falling in between 50% and that 100%. So a neutral transformational potential to still being highly transformational. So some folks might have recognized that, but this is consistent with what we've seen in other communities.
I got a question. Is it possible that some of these projects got low scores because there was a lot of people who responded in the sample size?
Yeah. That is accurate.
I mean, that's partly why we generalized it to percentages rather than all numbers. But yeah, I mean, generally, like, the less interesting projects people do.
Yeah,
to,
because
yeah.
telling them to put a sticker on all the projects and they would take one sticker and put on the one
Yeah.
that they don't like.
Yeah, oh, right.
One of those less.
They take the vote, yeah.
Was this like lower, like, is this lower part?
I don't think people respond to this one.
It's a little polarizing and from what I heard people say, they're like really liked it, or they were like, people use Google Maps, like, you know, we're like, yeah, yeah.
It's so cynical.
Yeah.
We should have included the word parking in it somehow.
Yeah.
Where parking is.
Right, right.
We're like, yeah.
Isn't that a sign? You're probably right. Nobody looks at it anyway.
All those people were already on Main Street, so,
Right.
you know, they knew where they were.
There we go. Yeah.
Not just bad now.
We've done very similar.
Any other questions from that? Then in the meantime, Susan's gonna try to pull up the results so then we can see where like there was a variation in responses. But any other questions on this project specifically?
I would say that this is the proposal that I had spoke to most business owners about who came into the shop.
And they were in
And this
favor?
is what they were into.
That's good, yeah.
Oh, the business owner.
Yeah, a lot of the small business owners,
Yeah.
from the general store to the flower shops to everything.
So for reference, 169 dots were placed on this project, but like compared to like High Street, that's 230 dots.
Go Park.
Right on.
That will be a regulation.
But that is interesting, though, I don't know if we did that or not, this. All the different stuff.
You have,
Do we not have a meeting for just the
We,
business on this?
we had a
Yeah.
meeting at the beginning of the process, but that was when the project was just opening, to really gauge like what their needs are, what will make it more transformational downtown for the businesses, so we did have that conversation.
That was the conversation,
Yeah.
I'll turn back again.
Yeah, yeah. Really helping to bring people down into the downtown to then patronize those businesses, and that was one of the key themes out of that.
I think there was a hope that we could have business names on the signs, but I don't think that's.
Let's change everything.
Yeah, and change everything.
Yeah, I think that is.
What you need is a digital board.
Yeah.
All right, so, here is the budget table. Nothing has changed in LPC meeting number 4. Any questions in regards to this table? Okay. All right, so then, the second to last project that we have is to expand Cedar Creek Plaza into a community centerpiece for gatherings and events. So the left-hand side is that existing condition, and then the right-hand side is the proposed condition. It is hard to note, I do just want to mention, when you look at the proposed condition, you see the tree kind of in the middle of the plaza there, it extends behind that tree. There is that wrapped around bench seating. So it's kind of hard to see from the rendering, the actual depth of that expansion of that, yeah, of the extension that is being proposed, but it does extend beyond that tree to provide a larger gathering space.
And did you say there's space there for like music or for an amphitheater kind of thing, or?
So the seating is tiered to kind of give that amphitheater style seating and to accommodate more, to allow for more people to gather in the space than currently through the seating options. Just to provide more seating. And it is also very hard to tell, but to the right hand, so in between those two planter boxes, if you look back there is a woman playing the violin or the viola. And so, we use that a little like orchestra just in your plaza. So there is the space to allow for some type of setup, the holiday events that you host currently. So that's really the idea for this project, is to accommodate larger gatherings, so you don't have to spill off into
That
that.
nice sign.
Oh, yeah, that time you into the next project.
Did we discuss, did we talk about the water fountain?
Yes, I think that there has been no changes to this project since LPC meeting 4, but that is something that the village could consider. Yeah, that's something those could consider later on. So for this project, the scope again is to redesign the existing concrete plaza at the intersection of Main and Cedar Streets into a modern, accessible public gathering space for residents and visitors of all ages and abilities. That is something to note with this project, that currently I believe there's a couple steps down, it's recessed. This is going to be flush with the street level so that all folks with different abilities will be able to actually access the plaza. Anticipated upgrades include the expanded community gathering space, the renewed decking, improved seating, and a welcoming design that establishes the plaza as a centerpiece of the downtown. The total project cost and the New York Board request has remained the same, and there are no updates at this time. And then, as you can see here, based on the results from the public engagement event, again, the overwhelming majority is really leaning towards that this project will have high transformational potential in the downtown, ranging from 53 to 57%, really in that high most category. Any questions in regards to this project? And I just want to note too, all of the results from the public engagement opportunities are going to be summarized and put onto the Dobbs Ferry project website, the New York Garden project website, within like the next week or so. So then the public will also be able to review that information. So then here is the budget table for this project. Again, nothing has changed on this project budget, and everything has remained the same since LPC meeting number 4. Any questions regarding this project? Okay. So then we will go through the last project.
But
Which is-
one question, this is, have to be prevailing wage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like, budget seems like.
all of the cost estimates, were done understanding, the regulatory requirements for prevailing wages.
Yeah, I know, I know the Nolan worked on it, so, or, I think, but it just seems like,
Not that one.
not that one, it seems like
Just the,
just based on, doing a deck somewhere on someone's house, right?
Yeah, but they don't have to go for permit.
Yeah, okay. It's a big deal.
Okay, so we'll make a note of that, but, okay, so then moving on to the last project, which is to extend streetscape improvements on Lower Main and Cedar Streets to enhance the pedestrian environment of the downtown. So here, this slide is just showing the improvements for Cedar Street. So on the left is the existing condition, and then on the right is the proposed condition. You can see the brick banding, trees with tree wells, improved seating for pedestrians. And then if I go to the next slide, this is now, Lower Main Street, so the existing condition is on the left-hand side and the proposed condition on the right-hand side. Again, lighting, the brick favored banding, pedestrian amenities such as or furnishings, I should say, such as the bed. So for this project, once again, another reminder of what the scope is, and it is to create a cohesive pedestrian environment by extending the completed Upper Main Street streetscape south between Chestnut and Walnut Streets and along Cedar Street from Main to Broadway. Improvements may include the installation of street trees, benches, lampposts, and upgraded sidewalks, as well as roadway repaving and restriping. The project cost in your photo request has not changed since LPC meeting number 4, and there are no updates at this time. In regards to the engagement results, you could see here that folks are finding it mostly high with the transformational potential. You can see here the results are kind of distributed between that 4 and 5 category that we had, so really leaning towards highly transformational.
Christie, remind me, is the scope also to include the communications lines to the
Yes.
extent possible?
That is a great point, Susan, and yes, that is accurate. So, burying those communication lines and providing conduit for the installation of the lamp posts.
No,
But not, so the electric will stay out, but the communications will be very
still something.
Yeah, so you could see,
It is.
Yeah.
you could see
Look at all the
here,
wires.
it was a little difficult to be able to clean up all of the wires in the images that are ultimately going to be buried, but you can see for the most part, that lower tier of wires, ultimately those seem to be the communication lines, and those ultimately will be buried, but then the actual electrical primary wires under that top tier, those are still remain.
I mean, it made a big difference on Main Street.
Yeah, no, it has. And 50% less terrible. It was cool,
Yeah.
right?
50% the less terrible. That
Do you want an endorsement?
Yeah.
I will say from that, it's very interesting that, there's a misalignment, I think sometimes with impact and the response, or the non-sexy thing you're talking about. And with a funny source like this, at least the way I'm conceptualizing it, it's not a bad thing if it goes to unconnected projects, because those projects probably would have typically been funded elsewhere. So it's a nice gap filler.
The village is applying to grants for this, are they not?
Yes.
Boone County, Berkeley Street.
So that brings us to the next slide, which has not changed since the last meeting, but to Donna's point, the village is, they have submitted to the Westchester County for a grant for streetscaping for Beacon Street, so that is what you see denoted here. Any questions in regards to this project? This is the last project. Okay. So with that, as this is our last project presentation, we'd like to turn it over to the public to see if anyone has anything, they would like to provide a comment or questions to the LPC. And then from there, that's when we're gonna get into the actual slim conversation, the juicy part of this meeting. All right. So with that, I'll turn it over to the public. If any members of the public would like to speak, you can raise your hand or stand up. Project sponsors, before you begin, my typical, please do not advocate for your project. You're here to, if you heard something that you want to respond to, feel free to do that. Or if you want to pose a question or a comment, feel free to do that as well. So I saw your hand first and then Morgan, you'll be next. So go ahead.
Hi. I was very confused about the performance center because I saw that we are having a project for two of them. There is one, the theater, right, the Dormitory Theater, which is a performance center. And, that is what it's about. That is what everyone wants to be. We want their people to be dancing, having ballet, having, meetings, having everything before the town. Our children are going out of the town to go to other places, so are we grown up. We have to go to other places to watch a movie or theater or a performance. I know myself a lot of comedians who came up and said that they would like to have shows in a performance center in the theater, but they don't have it where to go. I was very confused when I heard that there's a barn that is about to be transformed and all that money put into it when we already have one. And it's already a very old building, has beautiful structure to it. Inside, everyone is getting shocked when they enter. And it's made out of brick. I mean, the walls are already there. So I'm just very confused. Why is there two different projects? Because all that money can just go to one project at Greenpoint. And then the town can be proud of what it has, not what the town, which you are doing, but.
Thank you for your comment. So the difference in between the two theater projects is that the second project, they're proposing a black box theater to be used and to house a dance company that is already established, and they're looking to move to Dobbs Ferry. So slightly different than what the theater project is proposing to do, where they're looking to host music events, movie screenings, lectures, a different type of arts in comparison to what the other project is proposing to do.
Okay, as long as it's very clear that it's an art performing center, the Dobbs Ferry Theater, that's what we're wanting, about to be.
Of course, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morgan? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to mostly hit on Steve's question. So we've hired a fundraising consultancy, creative fundraising advisors. They're nationally, they do huge projects. We're actually a very small project for them, but the reason they're taking us on is because after we complete this capital campaign, we're rolling into an endowment campaign, which kind of hits Andrew's question from many meetings ago about what do we do during an economic downturn. We're trying to make sure that we're set up for that, so that no matter what, we've got an endowment to help run the company as a nonprofit. So we are, positioning ourselves to, hit any shortfalls with potentially not getting NISCA funding. I just met with Erica Mallon today in the capital campaign team for NISCA.
Yeah.
We are working with them to submit as strong a possible application for them. We're also applying for many grants beyond just what's listed on this. We're asking Schubert, Mellon, all of these major foundations. We also have foundations that have supported us for a long time. And if something happens that we say, we got this little bit that we need to get to the finish line, we are sure that an individual donor or foundation will step up to make sure that.
Do you have, I can ask you a question, right? You have multi-year program support from
Yes.
NISCA?
NISCA doesn't offer multi-year program support, so we reapply annually.
Well, I understand.
Yes.
Have you been successful
We've
in
been getting
multiple years?
we've been getting NISCA funding since 2018, I think.
Okay, so that's.
And
really good.
we get additional funding through Andrea's Fort Cousins office, which is also funneled through NISCA.
Yeah,
And also with our NISCA capital campaign application, we've got a letter of support from Senator Gillibrand, from Senator Fort Cousins, and from Assembly.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think the program support in multiple applications.
Yeah.
The capital panel, that's really important to the capital panel, so I would.
we've been a long-standing grantee of NISCA.
I would still say it's something it's hoped for, and
Oh,
there's all
100%.
these things that augur well, yes.
That's
So
why we're-
It's a kind of a,
Yeah, and
we don't
we're,
have enough categories in the form.
yeah, we're going above and beyond and applying for more
Yeah.
because we know these things are not guaranteed. Like,
Yeah, sure.
we've been existing for over a decade.
Yeah,
Nothing is guaranteed as a nonprofit arts organization. And again, that's why we're rolling this campaign into an endowment campaign so that we have, you know, real stability as a nonprofit arts
at least
organization.
it's not Washington that it's coming from.
Thank you.
I have one more question about the roof. Is it already, do you have to fix the roof?
We're doing some additional, like, beyond what would be done normally, because we're gonna have lighting right from it.
Right.
Yeah, so we need, and we wanna do some retractable blinds, there's a lot of stuff beyond what a landlord would do. A landlord would make sure it doesn't leak, so it needs to be able to have a big weight bearing grid, because we're spending, you know, a tremendous amount of money in lighting equipment, soft goods. I mean, when you hang curtains, they weigh a tremendous amount. And you know that facility, like, it can't, you know, additionally, like, our public announcement for all of this is tomorrow night at our gala. This has been kind of hush hush, obviously, these planning committee meetings are public, so I am getting phone calls. We have been, you know, quietly fundraising amongst individual donors, but tomorrow night at our gala is our big announcement. We are moving to Duxbury. This is happening, and we will rally, like, we're gonna do this. We will find this funding. It will happen. We are working tirelessly to make sure that there are no funding shortfalls and that we can maybe go above and beyond the scope of what we're proposing here. To really build a space for the community and a space for a nationally recognized standalone community. So it will happen. Is that it? Go ahead.
For the 143 Main project, I just wanted to talk to the property tax issue that came up before. That worked with the owner. And so, yes, it's an estate, transition issue. So dealing with a lot of things that come up. We're happy to, I'm sure that I could get a letter notarized in fashion, you know, to confirm that to a, you know, condo, but not all of that.
Anyone else in the public? Like to provide comment or questions in LPC? Okay, all right, so LPC members. So this was the slate of projects as of LPC meeting number 4. So 11 projects that have remained the same. The total project cost roughly $7.9 million. And then the New York Forward funding request stood at $7,595,000. So that was as of LPC meeting number 4. But now recognizing that there have been some changes to projects, total project costs, as well as New York Forward request, here we stand, this is where we stand as of today. So the total project cost has went up to $18.1 million. And the New York Forward request has also gone up to roughly $7.7 million. So before we dive into the slate discussion, I do want to know that Steve, as we'll be discussing all of the projects, you do not need to leave the room. However, we just have that you refrain from conversations regarding what you're doing.
Understood.
Thank you. So this is where we're at. This is the time now for the LPC to have the conversation about projects, thinking about everything that you just learned, potentially taking into consideration the public feedback from the Gary Festa and from the Public Workshop online survey. And now looking at this list holistically. So just a reminder, and again, there is no pressure to make a vote today. It is completely up to you all. If you feel comfortable in doing so, then we can. We do have the ballot with us. But if not, then we can continue the conversation into next week. We are to submit a slate of projects that are between $6 and $8 million. It is to the LPC to determine how they want to do that, if whatever they want to do in order to get in between that range. And then when you vote, you are voting on the slate, the entire slate. You are not voting on individual projects. It is a checkbox, yes, I want this entire slate to move forward, or no, I do not. So keep that in mind as you're having this conversation. Think about all of the project evaluation criteria that you've all used over the course of the past 3 meetings or so, while also now taking into consideration public support through that's that new criteria that we talked about today.
Can I just ask you, at least one person is missing, right? Or
Yes, just one.
For anybody else, so just Joe.
Just Joe, yes.
So we would, if we decided to finalize it today, Joe wouldn't have any.
He will still have to vote, so he won't obviously be able to participate in the conversation,
Right.
but we will, bring him up to speed separately, and we would also share the ballot with him so that he can vote as well. But,
We had this conversation at the Bethesda, that even though we submit a slate, the state decides which ones is, so we don't have a rank. We don't have a 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Right.
So the state could conceivably take something that we all think is number 5 and drop somebody that's, we really do want.
right, so we don't rank any of the projects that I emphasize, we're just submitting this entire thing. This is ultimately, we want all these projects to be funded because they're all great projects, and that's why we're moving them forward. The state will then go through their own slate of criteria, similar to what we do. I don't want to speak for Susan, but they go through their own slate of criteria, and that's how they evaluate the projects based off of what we're presenting in the strategic event.
So will the state consider public feedback, like it's specifically in areas like the wayfinding, right? Where people are like, the streets are, you know, so, you know, maybe the public isn't so happy about those, but we love street signs, right? We need some wayfinding, we need direction in the village.
Yeah.
So will they say, well, the public really didn't dig it, so it's out?
I think the state considers wayfinding the way that you all do, and that the public doesn't generally understand as to the intent of it. And so I think that that's one of the factors, is like, I think that the state reviewers generally understand it may not be the sexiest project, but like it's a really important project.
I mean, just, you know, the larger, like all the projects, will they say, well, the public really loved this, but they didn't like that, and if they're kind of like in the state's eyes, sort of on the same plane, will that be a criteria that?
It's one of the factors the state considers, just as you all consider a variety of factors as well.
And that is included in the project profile. So the project profiles include a lot of information that we obtain directly from their application with all the updated information, project description, capacity of the project sponsor. The public support is one of those sections. So we basically summarize all of the feedback that we received from the LPC as well as the public. We're going to provide these bar graphs, as you see here, so that the state will then have something to reference in their review.
To Andrew's point about how the state is now focusing on housing, right? So I think initially, you know, maybe there's a little hesitancy in funding a private project, but how? I mean, I don't know if you can speak to this as far as how does the state's view on creating housing in the downtown and how much weight that's given?
I mean, I can't say that, you know, that, I don't know the exact evaluation, that housing projects get 10 extra points, like, I don't know that that's the case. I don't, you know, from what I know, it's a much more holistic evaluation, as you all do, you know, similar to the criteria you use. But, you know, I don't think it's a mystery that like housing is a, you know, major priority for the governor. You know, the Doxbury has to be a pro-housing community to be eligible to apply to New York Board. So, you know, I would definitely like consider that, you know, that is an opportunity to bring housing and, you know, help diversify housing for residents and future residents. And you know that Doxbury, there are limited opportunities to bring more housing, just given the fact that it's primarily built out. So something for you to consider, but yeah, housing is a priority.
So how does the scoring work then? What are they, like, we're submitting $7.6 million worth of projects. What are they scoring them on? Like, how do they, we're not able to give them a priority list, so how do they decide?
Sure, so I mean, it's using very similar criteria as to you all use alignment with state, local goals, project readiness, you know, potential catalytic impact, et cetera. And you know, similarly, they will have a ranking or not a ranking, a score as you all did with mentioned here. And it will produce a list of projects, you know, in some sort of, you know, prioritized order, based on the evaluation from multiple state agencies. And then that will help inform which projects, you know, get some of that $4.5 million.
That was my question. We're presenting a package of 6 to 8 million, but they're only going to give us 4.5.
Right.
So are we better off carrying down the ask to get the projects that we really want? I don't know.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, I mean, I can tell you my experience, because I went through this before.
Oh, okay, good.
So when I did this in the city, I was on the LPC and we had, it was $10 million, and we submitted like 16 or 17. And it was very similar to this, where everyone was like, yeah, all these projects are great, but we did have different goals, and some were aligned much higher and some were aligned much lower. But in the end, we decided to just put forward all the projects. And I do think that maybe that was a mistake, because when the final list came out, it went to the state and finalists came out, and a lot of people maybe misunderstood that our sort of like, and it's not to be ranking, but our sort of like preferences weren't necessarily taken into account, or they were angry. And my organization was the applicant, so they were calling me being like, I thought everybody liked this project, people didn't really like that project, why did that make sense? So I think if I were to do it again, and you know, I would advise this group too, is that if there's projects that you're like, I really, really think it's important, then, but like, if, you know, if, for example, like Memorial Park is so important to everyone, speaking as an example, it could not make the final list, and the people might be.
The bottom five might make it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. And I think I would emphasize that you all are here for a reason. You all are here to kind of guide the projects that are gonna have the most impact for your community. And so, you know, we offer that range of $6 to $8 million, because you maybe have $8 million for amazing projects that you would be equally happy to see all of them offer. But like, we want you all as an LPC to provide that guidance and then select the projects to go forward that you all think have the most impact with them.
So we might be losing some projects, so we could or not.
No, that's up to the LPC discretion as well.
And right now, we can choose, like, the goal is for us to all have a slate, but in this process right now, we could decide to not provide the total requests they've asked, right? And we could all here decide, you know, we will only give 200,000 towards streetscape. Not happen, but you know, we could change that in here.
I would advise against doing that at this stage. So I
Okay.
mean, I think that we have worked with all of the project sponsors to craft full formed projects that have the potential to be transformative, and have gone back and forth with project sponsors on the budget to make sure that these are like intentional projects. I don't think that it is wise practice to say, let's cut 10% of all of them, because that could affect like the project's ability to even happen. And we've had a lot of those conversations with project sponsors at this point, and so I feel like this is the number we've arrived at to make these projects happen. I think even more, Dan said, I believe you all started at 1.5, we've come down to 1, so I feel like a lot of that has occurred.
So are we at this point?
Cut or not,
Yeah, cutting projects off this list.
that's different.
Right, and I would
Not cutting-
also,
not
this goes
cutting-
back to the consideration of the evaluation criteria. Don't just cut a project because you want to get down to a lower amount. Cut a project based off of all of the, like, think back now to all the results that we kind of concluded at the end of each meeting about everything, cost effectiveness, project readiness, the catalytic effect, public support, everything, and think about it holistically. Don't just willy-nilly go and cut a project because it's gonna reduce our estimate by $6 million. Think about
But if
what the
it's gonna
projects.
reduce it because we want the ones that are remaining to get it, then yes, we would cut.
I think
I mean, that's a strategy that the LPC could do, but also take into consideration, as Susan was alluding to, the changes that project sponsors were making in response to what the LPC's requests were. So think about everything. I just don't want you to make rash decisions. That's just what I'm saying.
Well, the thing is, we've already reviewed all of these, and I think the state would be aligned with, like, they would approve all of them too, if we had the money for it. So I think our best bet probably is, we have to lower the rates, I think.
And something to note too in regards, so say you do want to remove a project, but they've made it this far in the process, they've gone through all the planning, they've been vetted by you all. You could decide, rather than allowing them to move forward for potential funding, they could be considered a supporting project. And what that means is that they'll remain on the ballot, but instead of having their New York forward request, they would have 0. And that indicates to the state that this project has gone through the entire vetting of the LPC, of the consultant team, all of that. But the LPC, based on the evaluation criteria, whatever it might be, felt this project should not advance for funding, but they still find that this project will have some transformative potential for the revitalization of the downtown. And now this project is already in the eyes of the state when it's submitted, and it will put this project basically a step above other projects if they go to apply for other grants. So it's helping projects in a different way if they're not necessarily on the actual slate. So that's something to consider and something that we can do.
Are those supporting projects, by chance, if this some reason enough things get dropped and there seems to be extra money in the grant. Do those projects get looked at?
It has been done, yeah. The other thing that I would remind you of, and Chris, because is, thinking about the vision and goals, the goals that you all set for this process. Diversify the commercial offerings, enhance the pedestrian experience, and liven downtown through creative placemaking and increasing housing opportunities. Those are the 4 broad goals that you all identified at the beginning of this process. So, that can be something that helps drive, this conversation. I think Chris's point shouldn't just be about money. It should be about a larger vision of the way you're through downtown.
Say those 4 again.
Diversify downtown commercial offerings, enhance the pedestrian experience, enliven downtown through creative placemaking, and increase housing opportunities.
So generally, housing, pedestrian experience, commercial offerings, and creating like a sense of place. So those are the 4.
So I think the first decision is the only way to make a decision tonight, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we are, right? We feel
Like
that?
to.
Yeah, I think we can, but I think we have to be really strategic about what our slate is.
Yeah.
You-
Who's got idea?
Oh, you said that?
Who's got idea?
How do people feel about, not going forward with bar?
The one I was.
Is that much? It's only 2 apartments, they're asking like 76% of the funding comes from this. Whereas 143 Main is only 20%. Yeah. And that was 5 apartments. And our borough has the most paying feedback. The more, yeah.
Yeah, I would just suggest that.
It's bringing housing.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, it's put one in for housing. Yeah.
Put the one on Main Street in.
Yeah, and 143, yeah.
143.
It gives us 5 apartments, it gives us an affordable housing unit, and it's giving us another commercial.
And the energy
Well,
thing.
I mean, how many units are at 143 right now?
4.
That's a very high.
One extra.
They're uninhabitable.
Uninhabitable currently.
Or
So
uninhabitable.
really
Oh,
zero.
so it is. Whatever.
And it's a green home.
Right.
And
Wait, is that whole building uninhabitable?
Yes.
Oh, good God.
Yeah, you can't go in.
so the best part about that is they're going to make an affordable unit the 2-bedroom, so that's a
Yeah.
family, that's just
Yeah.
not a single, right? So that brings like more people.
We talked about this with Stephen in the room, and he said we could, right?
Yeah, you just can't talk.
Yes, you just can't contribute.
So you talk at them.
Yeah.
That's gotta be so frustrating.
Our numbers are declining, only places for families.
I think there's a bunch of projects on here that really have a chance to put Daventry on the map.
You're all on his map.
More so on the map.
Oh.
Chairs.
Yeah, it's so big.
Bigger, bigger map.
Yeah, I put 1.3 because business departments to get the affordable housing unit, and it's a pretty good. Couple years.
And then, developers pay attention to these things, people who want to, if you see this happening in Daventry, I think it's gonna entice more people to come in, even more. People might see that.
I would do the 0 thing though.
So do
Yes,
we-
certainly.
So let's first take a vote by raising hands. Because it sounds like there seems to be consensus generally as of now to remove the 100 Main Street barn renovation project as a project to move forward for funding. But it sounds like there's a potential to keep it as a supporting project. So if you are in favor of removing the project for funding, please raise your hand. The barn, the 100 Main Street barn project. Okay. If you want to keep it as a supporting project, meaning putting a 0 on the ballot, but moving it forward, please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so with that, doing some quick math, that would bring the slate down to $7,224,000.
You did it. We gotta get them.
No, not too, no, no, Donna.
Although,
7,224,000.
if you have a supporting contract, we could do that.
No, you can't go down to
Yeah,
4.8.
you would pay it.
You'd be at 6.
Oh, yeah,
That's what it is.
but you could get
6 to 8
that's
million.
fine. Yeah, there are things we really want.
That is a strategy that the LPC could take if they decide to do so.
There are two projects I'm skeptical about, and partly because of the cost estimate and the benefit. As much as I like the library and use it, I'm kind of skeptical about, it's a seasonal use. And so a lot of the uses that you're talking about, yoga, it depends on, it's weather dependent. And I'm just not so sure I mean, I just have doubts about the results and the actual way that it's being, kind of thought about and the budget. And I had the same questions about the Cedar Street deck, which seems it's not that much money, but I think it needs to go for additional money somewhere. And it may be a grantable project under other, part of the streetscape or something. And so if we'd be taking $1 million off if we added
I
those.
agree with both of those.
If we deleted both of those, in other words, in total, we'd be down to six, like 800.
Let me say million, the library is 335.
Including 100. Including the bar. So if you add up the barn, Cedar Street and the library.
Then you're at 998,000.
That'd bring you to $6,685,000.
Yeah.
I really like the theater.
Because
That's the focal point of our.
I like it, but it's not enough money to do it, that in the budget. And so it needs to be rethought as a project, and then I think there's other money that's available somehow. And put it as a supporting project for sure. I mean, I like both of those projects. It's just, I'm really skeptical about, having been scarred in the construction market for the last year and a half especially. And the fact that these are gonna have to be done through public procurement processes. I'm just nervous about both of those, the degree of planning and the budget. So I think, I got a feeling there would be skepticism. I don't know who's on the state, reviewing panel, but I think there's gotta be other ways of funding that.
I think you have to reiterate, though, this has gone through experts who decided that this is the proper amount of money to spend on these projects, right? I mean,
We had a cost estimating firm that was as part of our sub-consultant team, and they were the ones that ultimately did provide the cost estimates, and this is what they do, professionally. So that is something that they've gone through. I do understand what you're saying, especially in this climate. It does also include a rather high contingency to try to kind of cover some of those unknowns, in the future, but
Yeah.
understood. Does anyone have any thoughts to add on to that?
I'm just gonna go back on that. Did they have soils analysis on the Cedar Street site? It's a very difficult site to extend the deck out into, and the foundations alone are gonna be a significant fraction of that. So I respectfully, disagree with that price. I just think I'm surprised that somebody it passed through somebody like that.
Is the OCA behind it?
They were very excited about it.
I don't think we should deny a project because or anyone doesn't think that the estimate was proper, because then we have to really look at any project to that.
Well, I don't-
Look at the value of the project that it brings to I feel like I'm advocating for something that I'm interested, but we shouldn't, I think it brings a value to the community. It's a meeting place in the heart of Dobbs Ferry, and it's a relatively inexpensive project, so I don't think we should not.
I'd have to say the same about the library. Right,
You could say that.
the library is the first place that moved down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question, can I ask a question of the village in this, discussion? If it does double in price, are you still doing it?
Yeah.
And I would argue that having this, even if it increases in price, forces us to want to do it more than if you just cut it out. Like if you get granted some amount and it ends up costing more, it's something that we then are still going to prioritize. Because we have some
Yeah,
funding.
we would never, by the time we get to this project,
I mean, that's Stephen Main Plaza, one. I'm sure you go to Christmas stuff there, it's very small, if you have a lot of gatherings there. And there's someone, you know, and if you're in the downtown, you just wanna sit and meet some people and talk outside, there's no place in the downtown. And we have the benches there now, but they're not really, you know, inviting, you know. So to have some place that you can just go and sit and meet a friend or have a cup of coffee outside.
Climb a wall? I don't know, I'm skeptical about its use as well, quite honestly. Somebody who goes through there, you know, a lot. That-
I would think
that-
the DPW has to really keep up on it though, because you know what happens down here now.
It seems simple, it's a simple, and it's that simple deck to maintain. You need to maintain that, then.
No, I'm talking about garbage.
Yeah. So I guess we're at a point where we're like, are we keeping it or not, right?
So-
So let's,
Let's take a vote. So let's start with, so let's start with the library, this first project on the list. The library, if you are in favor of removing the project from the list for funding, raise your hand. Okay, so the library is to remain. If you are in favor of removing the Cedar Street Plaza from the list for funding consideration, please raise your hand. Okay, so the plaza is to also remain. Okay, so as of now, we still stand at the 7.224 million.
I think we should move away. 7.2, that.
we're still within range.
Yeah.
And I can't identify something that,
This is a good slate.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something that's like,
I think so.
We don't have to rank them, do we? We just put.
No ranking, please don't rank them.
No ranking. All right. Andrew, do you have anything?
I was just curious, why no ranking?
Why what?
Why is the state
No
not
ranking.
encouraging?
It's here to enforce the rules, guys.
I'm telling you that since day one.
Public, right? So like, we don't, this is what I'm saying, like, these could all go in, and then we don't see, like, I said this to the state person on our previous project, and she got mad when I used the word opaque, but like, that process is a little bit opaque. So it could come back and be, you know, it could be totally different than what we're thinking, but that's, right, that's.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess all these projects are, and that's the question.
The state can so at the state, can they do the partial, they can support it?
They can, typically, I mean, I don't think it's usually the most common thing, I think they usually try to fund full projects, but I've definitely seen in the past for some projects, you know. Usually the last projects, you know, need that $4.5 million, always gets a haircut for something.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've seen other cases where, you know, other multiple projects will receive them, maybe they received other state funding in the meantime, and so they don't need as much FEMA forward funding, something to that effect, but yeah, it can happen. But I think typically it's full project. New York City operates sometimes a little differently, so I don't know if you've had a difference.
Well, in our case, we had, there was like, there were all projects that were fully funded, and one of our projects was tree puts and tree guards throughout the district. And that project, we only got half the funding, and the reason why I was told was because all the other projects were like a building or something very specific, whereas this was like district wide, so it could easily be cut. So I was thinking about that with like the streetscape or, you know, something where it's like more, larger district wide projects.
It is possible. I mean, where I've seen, makes me think I have seen a streetscape project cut or like trend, but I've seen a trend in like section. So like, you know, rather than as a holistic project, and so like this project is not very much presented as like all or nothing.
So they will be cutting. Yeah, some say 3 million, somebody's gonna go.
Right,
Somebody's gonna go.
something's not gonna get full one.
When do they make it?
Typically, awards have historically been announced in late spring, maybe one day will be faster, but I would say late spring.
So basically, 2.5 million gets cut.
Yeah.
Project,
You don't wanna have control over that.
yeah, so,
that's the thing, right? If you're more strategic and sort of you keep your favorites, well, potentially.
Well, this is what you're saying, you should be, and not saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I want to cut any of them, but I'm just saying, if there's some that you're like, I really want, and then there's others that you're like, for example, if, you know, like Memorial Park or the theaters that had a lot of public support get cut, people might be like, oh, but we really were excited about that. And then it would look like, you know, we would be the ones that have to answer. We could obviously blame the state, but they are giving us the money. But, yeah.
That's part of why I was going where I was going, because just some amount of skepticism, but trying to permeate the other projects, which I think are really good, you know, the downtown projects. And so I just thought having, you know, kind of having less chaff in the discussion, so that the projects that have real serious benefit, you know, the wayfinding, the parks, and the, you know, the other stuff, I think is important to try to keep those front and center.
Is something like the library something that they can fundraise for, or is that like beyond their scope?
I don't see why, I mean, there's also library funding, you know, still at the state level, the Washington, the IMLS, and like down the tubes. But I don't see, you know, I think there's other ways that they can raise money and also develop the vision more concretely. I don't know.
Even if we took those two projects out, there's still gonna be another $2 million that's gonna be chopped off after that. So, so this is like picking a favorite child, right? Where we're at.
Yeah.
It sounds like some of the things that, many of you who have spent many years in jobs, and I have not, who are really invested in the signage and the sidewalks and the lighting, that was not top priority for the public, right? The public top choices were, the theater on Cedar Street and, Modance and
Memorial
and even the public library, right? And even though you said that they just don't really get it, they don't know, but that's kind of an assumption too, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of conflict there with all of the proposals from the town versus other proposals. Does that make sense? That there's a,
But I think, you get the point, I think if you're a resident of Dobbs-Ferry, then you undervalue the value of having signage. I know where the library is, I know where Village Hall is, right? Whereas when you come from, like, we all come to different villages or towns, cities, and that, if we see those signs, we go, oh, Village Hall this way, or, you know. So I think maybe the residents undervalue that, and certainly the streetscaping.
yeah,
That's an
but you all
opportunity.
value that. I mean, you value that.
We know how important it is, right? Because we know that to have upgraded sidewalks, to have upgraded lighting, and upgraded streetscape, how important that is, and we know how expensive it is.
Yeah.
That without this input, we will probably won't do it for another 10, 15 years, right? So we know from our part of the village that it's important to the village and to the future of the village.
And we've already done one section, one way,
Sure.
you know, so it's not like, there's really pretty street and then broken sidewalks, dead trees, you know, so
Yeah,
continue that look while people may not, you know, understand it. When you walk down it, you get it. You know, the experience will be there, you know, the aesthetics will be there, without people even realizing that, oh, wow, this is really nice walking down here now, you know.
Agreed, yeah.
Well, the uneven sidewalk, I mean, that's a whole hazard.
Yeah.
We voted that.
Yeah, no, seriously, was Main Street.
If we could vary 50% of ways, make them 50% less ugly.
We'll say it's less terrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah, also if we have, you know, people were sort of comparing, like, they were looking at all the projects, a lot of the people that I was talking to, they were looking at all the projects in context, so we deal with a lot of theater people in Dobbs Ferry, myself included,
So they see like these performing arts and they're like, oh, that sounds great, and then they're like, streetscape, oh, you know, so, I just, yeah. Right,
Yeah, I think there's often like, think of like, what's new and flashy, and then like, what's repair and necessary.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to consider
So I think that's often it's happened.
No one ever makes a private donation for a sidewalk.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Because the memorial sidewalk.
I think it's a good point, right? Like I try to, one, I think important framing mechanism is where does capital flow? Because this is capital that doesn't need a return. Which is a unique category. Things like streetscape, wayfinding and that there's no obvious return on investment when you invest in those things, from the private sector standpoint. Which is, I think, one of the major advantages of this, like it doesn't need a return on capital, so.
So, hearing the silence, thank you, Andrew, but hearing the silence, are we at the point, just to confirm, that we still want to make a vote today? Or do we want to continue this conversation into another week?
I think we should make it today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We'll
then,
just
the
end
next
with-
question is, I guess I'll ask one last time, because it kind of feels like we're all getting to a consensus in some way. Are there any projects, looking at this list, except the library and the plaza being, or not, we can keep going back at it, that you would like to remove from the slate? If not, then I'll ask for hands and we could take a vote.
Do we want to keep the public art? Because it's low cost and, yeah.
Well, we can always ask an artist to do that. Sorry, the snark, like, no, okay, sorry, I know it's being recorded and.
It's funny, it's like the idea of public art. Again, to keep it into consideration, that could get funded and then these street signs don't, or these, something, so it's.
It's a relatively small amount, but maybe you're right.
I don't know, or it could get cut to, that's something that.
Yeah.
Or that could fill in the space when they're like shy of $150,000,
right.
and like, oh, there's your $4.5 million. So.
Yeah, they may see Goat Park and say, what the heck, what? So the state does not like look at our four main, like mission statements.
Oh, yeah. That is
Right,
all
so,
for
right, so then it's almost like, that, like, we've only got one housing project. So that one, I feel, so most likely say yes to, right? That was like, check off that box. And then the other things is that I think, like the sidewalks, that might be another check. You have to think of it like that. Yeah. They're probably only gonna pick either the dance one or the, what we're gonna learn this, but, the theater or the dance, they're only one stuff. So,
I think I thought too, but I don't have issues.
Well, I think
What'd you say?
I agree to think.
I had that thought too, like with the state fund too, they might want to diverse list of projects, they might not pick to performing arts projects, I don't know, we can't get rid of other ones. Yeah, but that's.
no, you can't, but we also have to be prepared that we're gonna be disappointed if, when one of them doesn't meet, so that's, I think. What will happen.
You're right, you're right.
And we find.
Yeah, right.
They both totally different.
Two persons.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's what you're.
Maybe they will both have fun.
Well, I mean, that's what we're hoping one, right? That's the two highest rated projects.
Well, okay, 125 also thought of artists and stuff, if we pitch, I guess we can't pitch it as trying to make Belfast a cultural hub. We have artists there in 145, we have two fabulous theaters, and
That you did that, you have to at the expense of the streetscape, so whatever. So
Are there other towns going through this too? Right now?
Nyack is right now.
So if Nyack doesn't spend all their money, will the state?
Oh,
I mean, I have question.
I was wondering where you're going with that.
I don't think we're pushing from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do have more projects, so they had a 4.5, 4.5, oh no, almost 5 hour meeting last time, so. They have, I think they make it.
There's pizza.
Yeah, but did they have 2 theater projects?
They do.
They do?
They have several event space projects.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things, there's a meeting space, it's a, you know, the village can rent it out, the groups can rent it out, it's not a different kind of thing, it's more of an event space than it is here. I mean, it isn't here, but you know what I'm saying, there's other things too.
So there's something more than and us, I don't think our vision is different.
Exactly,
Yeah, we're not too similar.
That's a similar thing.
Yeah.
No, and I think,
You're thinking the wrong way on that.
yeah,
We're looking to do, with Maury's looking to do is two different things.
But we're in town, so one of the main things is an anchor, and to create people to walk into town and have some place to go to the restaurants, and you want more stores to open up. You need an anchor, 145.
All right, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. this-
No more than Anderson.
Yes, so this is for an LPC. We're at the point, so between, it kind of seems like the conversations about Peters, are we thinking of leaning one way or the other with both of them, or keeping them in?
I don't think both of them can. We just have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people with the keep both on.
Yeah.
Are we at the point where we feel like we're comfortable to make a vote on this later project?
What part
Well, I think Steve's whole voice in my mind about Cedar Street.
The barn is out. So LPC, are we at the point where we feel comfortable where we could make a vote on this slate?
Yes.
You could vote yes, you could vote no. I mean,
Just one more.
ideally, we want everyone to vote yes.
Are there some
We want-
projects that we want to do the zero on?
Yes, that's what we're gonna do with the 100 major barn project.
Oh, okay, so it's the only one we're doing that one.
That, as of now, unless there's a change for another project.
Can we? Okay, Stephen really has poison my mind about Cedar Street, so.
Sorry.
No, but that's why we're here,
Yeah.
right? So we don't vote next week, but,
Yeah.
how much you guys feel about Cedar Street?
I feel, you know, he's talking about the library, maybe right about the library.
Oh, man.
Well,
I fall for the Cedar Street thing.
the
that I
children
have to
that you
go
wanted, you know, it's like women and children first, I don't know, you know, like, there's some kind of triage if you're trying to emphasize the other project. In that, you know, in Laura's experience, I don't know, I mean, people are gonna be disappointed either early or later. There're gonna be 3 or 4 projects on this slate that won't get funded. And so like, what are they? Sure.
It's true, and honestly, in these types of settings, the way that it's set up, like, it lends itself to you knowing the people who are the sponsors or, you know, and so. In our case, in Long Island City, I think a lot of us didn't wanna cut projects, cause we knew the people, or they were on the board, or something, you know,
Yeah,
so.
right.
And I could excuse myself, and I could, good, but, like, so I think that's why we kept what we kept, and then people were upset, but.
That's like my ultimate fear right now.
I mean, it is something.
Yeah.
It is
I
something.
love I mean, I like the library, and I think that's kind of like a political decision, but I don't think it adds to what they're saying as much as these other projects do. And I
We're
don't know
talking
how much,
about the library?
yeah, but I don't know how much of a gathering space that is going to be, because it is
Already,
kind of out of the way,
that's already a cabinet.
yeah,
In terms of the transformative nature of it,
yeah.
that's my concern about
Yeah.
it. It's like, it's not a space already, that it's not like in terrible condition.
Wait, which one was that?
Relatively new construction.
Now, yeah, you got poison my mind still.
Yeah, and
And
you
so,
can put up,
and I can argue, I understand Cedar Street, I think, you know, I wish there was like a better design that had a more appropriate price tag for it, like that. And so I foresee that might change once it comes into design time.
right.
But I do think that like doing a downtown New York Port package that doesn't include trying to activate the actual center of the downtown is a big.
Well,
So we need a community gathering space.
yeah, well, they might think of it as as in connection to the Cedar Street sidewalk thing, so that might be a natural
Mhm.
thing that they would, that I can see. that-
So can we talk about the library again? Can we have a vote on that again?
Are we ready? Yeah, we can have a vote.
Okay, I'll concede.
Okay.
I don't like the roof on that library
Well,
project.
Okay,
I mean, the other thing to say with the library, you can put up a temporary, you can put up,
You can put it at 10.
you can put up a tent, you can put up canopy, you can put up umbrellas, you know, so stuff can happen. And maybe it should have a demo, you know, do a demo thing like you do at intersections to see if it really activates it.
okay.
Library would be something that like, if we zero that one, there's probably,
So it's a supporting
probably
project?
huh?
So the supporting project.
Steve said there's a
I mean, there's
library.
probably other grant
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
right.
They could have, they would definitely have opportunities to grant spend if they were a zero project, or help
Yeah.
them there.
Yeah.
to do
Okay.
that.
So let's vote. The action in order, for a vote would be to remove the library for consideration for funding as part of the slate, but to consider it as a supporting project, so meaning a 0 on the ballot. If you're in favor of that, please raise your hand.
All right, Steve, you wanted.
I think we should use the library. Is it a majority vote? Yeah, okay, then I'm gonna vote to keep the library, and the only
So,
that might not.
Let me see hands one more time.
For which?
To remove the library for funding, but keep it as a supporting project, so putting a 0. It'll still go to the state. Okay, so it is majority, so moving forward, the library will not be moved, library won't be moved. But it will be a supporting project.
That's
Down
our-
to now.
When something.
But, you know, the thing is,
Yeah.
like, we use the library, we're spilling out into that courtyard anyway.
No, I agree with
It
you.
would be that.
So we are now at, $6,834.
How much? 6.
Did I do it wrong?
That's
Oh,
a-
no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I put the project cost, 335, it'll be the one. Sorry. $6,889,000. That's it, so, yeah.
Just 1 million.
Okay, someone who's been talking about that.
Yes, 6.9 million is rounded. Okay, are we now at the point, are we comfortable with this slate? We're at $6.88 million, 6.89 round. Are we at the point now where we are ready to move forward with this slate of projects?
Are you ready for us to move forward?
We're not done yet. We still have the roadmap to get to. I'm sorry, but we needed that information. We kept the art. So as of now, the slate is comprised of 9 projects to be considered for funding, 2 supporting projects, which is the library and 100 Main Street, with a total New York Forward request of 6.889 million. Are there any other projects that the LPC would want to consider? But now we're getting closer towards the bottom of that range that has to go to the state.
Good. I'm over you.
I mean, now is go time, right? We're gonna take out one project, now is the time that we feel would maybe take away from something we really love.
If people wanted to reduce, I'd be okay with getting rid of this time.
Is the signage also telling people where parking is?
People aren't gonna read that sign, we know that.
That's the sign, yeah.
I know, but.
Remember, we're not just cutting projects to cut them for cost wise.
No.
Let's keep in consideration all of our evaluation criteria, all of our long meetings together.
It's a question of making sure that the ones that we want to get financed, the big finance.
Right, there's a strategy, which I understand.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a question of getting money down, just making sure that the ones we want to get. I agree, what I was nice. I know we've been talking about it for years, people have been asking for it, as you said, like the merchants, you know. I think we need to do something for them.
I just wanna know that the feedback you heard from businesses,
Right.
that overall like working back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has to take into consideration.
I'm okay with this way as it is, personally. Yes.
And something like the signage and the art, I mean, there's so little money that they might get, they might be able to bill it.
Sign you are.
Oh,
Right. What happens if it's, I'm sorry, never mind.
what?
Like when, for any project, if the total project cost ends up being less, but the request was what it is, how does that impact what they get from the city?
So I've not encountered that with public projects, I mean, that's more that, that's me. Yeah, I've not encountered that with public projects, that's the one that our agency, does. I know ESC contracts with private, and I know in their typical grants that like the total project investment is less than they like do a prorated amount reduction in the award. Again, we've never seen it, but that is, I think, what ESC's policy has been for private projects.
Okay. Are we at the point where we can vote on the slate of project, meaning we're gonna do another hand raise to make sure we have a majority to move forward? And then we'll actually hand out the ballot. But one last opportunity, anyone have anything that they wanna say? Okay, so hearing none. Again, 9 projects on the slate of projects to be in consideration for the funding. Total funding amount at, or total year forward request at $6,889,000. And then 2 projects could be on the ballot, but as supporting projects, so they're gonna have a 0 as their year forward request.
Can I just ask one more question? They're only giving out 4.5, right? So the projects that the state cuts, does that put them on the 0 calendar? Or they just consider for something else?
I mean, they would still be in the strategic investment plan as projects that you all support and are for that town. So yeah, it's still something if they go for other grants, you know, they prefer.
Okay, that's better, yeah, so they don't get like,
Right, it's not like we're like, this is never gonna get funding ever again for the program.
Yeah, they're still a step above all other projects that didn't necessarily go through this process because they were already been vetted multiple times, so the state does recognize that.
And then is there a ranking for the ones that they don't fund in the 4.5? Or the things that fall off because they don't happen, and then they go to the others, and that's why we're submitting them?
So what
How
I've
do we
seen
know what
happen,
would be next?
yeah, so what I've seen happen is it usually goes back to kind of the feasibility assessment of all of the remaining projects. You know, maybe they can't happen anymore, maybe they've already moved forward without funding, maybe it's just something that the community is no longer interested in. So it's not necessarily, we're gonna go back to the next, it looks at all of the holistic list again, and kind of assesses the feasibility and viability from all of them.
But the state does. We
But they
don't
do-
have
they
it.
do grant by grant, like we don't, we're not in with NIAC as to.
Right, the $4.5 million
Is ours.
is doctor
And how long do they wait
for.
things to fall apart?
That's a complicated question. I mean, it really varies project by project, because there's.
Like if something is a big chunk of money and it doesn't actually go anywhere for 3 years, and something else doesn't get funded because we're waiting on that to fail.
So I think, you know, the goal, as we said from the beginning, is that it can be shovel ready within 2 years. So from award, so that is the goal. However, I think there's always circumstances that impact, you know, various projects. You know, whether it is, development has been fighting lawsuits. That's something that's entirely out of their control, but they're still demonstrating they want to move forward. I've seen that be a situation where one has not been withdrawn because they're still committed to doing the project. They just can't for legal reasons. You know, maybe it's a permitting issue that, you know, they came forward. So I mean, I think the real thing is like, is progress happening? Or is somebody just saying like, nah, I'm not doing anything, or am I totally unresponsive?
Now, if somebody, say something happens and somebody can't finish it, or whatever, the money that was allotted to them, does that go to like, 0 people, or does that go to, do we keep that money in bank until we give it to one of the other projects.
Yeah, so like different projects, doesn't have to use all of the money afforded, money or forward. Yeah, I mean, you would go back to those unfunded projects as part of these, like that you all are, and then evaluate.
So we don't lose that money.
No, the money does not leave us.
Okay. All right, so I think we're at the time now where we're going to
So,
see if we are ready to actually make the vote. So with that, if you are, ready, you're in favor, you're comfortable with this slate, this is the slate you want to move forward to the state to represent Dobbs Ferry, please raise your hand.
so,
Not that slate, the slate that we just talked about.
yeah,
Yes, the 9 projects,
Yeah.
2 supporting projects,
Yeah.
$6.889 million. Okay, all right. So with that, I'm not gonna hand out the ballots yet because it's a little tricky and people always do it wrong. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you the ballot, we're gonna talk through the instructions, and then we're gonna hand them out. So if you look in a
Don't
second,
pack up yet, she still has one more thing.
I tried warning you earlier, I need your input. Okay, so if you take a look at the ballot, we will start handing out the ballots, but you are to print your name on the top of the ballot. You are then to go through the list of projects, and we're gonna ask that you put a line through the library and the 100 Main Street Muir forward requests and put a 0. After you do that,
Wait.
Next to the amount.
we'll wait till everyone gets it. Okay. So all together, let's go down the list of the ballots, and where you find the library, put an X through New York forward funding request and put a 0. In like the same box over it, whatever, as long as it's.
An X on the left, an X over on the left.
No. Over the New York forward funding request for the library, the number, cross out the number,
Yeah, put a 0.
and then put a 0.
Cross this out, that's the amount.
And then move down, now move down the list to 100 Main Street barn renovation project and do the same thing. Cross out the New York forward funding request and put a 0. Everyone is not to do anything in the left-hand column except Steve Tilley. Steve Tilley is going to go to the 143 Main Street row because he has to indicate that he is recusing himself, and he's gonna put an X in that left-hand column. No one else is to do anything. Next, go to the top of the page and please write your name, print your name.
So we check that, right, we check on the other one.
Don't check anything. You're only checking if you have to recuse yourself. Once you have your name spelled out, you're gonna go to the next little box, and this is where you're going to vote. It is check yes, I vote for this entire slate to move forward, or I oppose this slate. So just one big X or a check in either of those boxes that you would like to vote on. Yes. Once you do that, flip it over and sign it at the bottom, please, and Susan will collect it.
That was challenging.
Every year, we have issues, but we worked it through together.
That was great, that was like a
Thank
sixth
you.
grade teacher.
Thank you. I'm here to help. I also didn't print extras, so there's there's also that. So we were gonna work it through together one way or another. Okay. No, not yet. I apologize. I know we were over. But this is going to be a huge help for us. This was one of the questions that we had at the public workshop, and obviously we had only 8 people respond to it, so we can listen to them, but we ideally want to hear from you as well. As part of the strategic investment plan, the very last section, and I think I've been alluding to this in our previous meetings, we have to talk about that revitalization in the downtown. It started before New York Forward, and it's not going to end with the New York Forward. And ideally, what we have to do is identify a roadmap for the village to ultimately use that will include near-term 3 to 5 years recommendations that are really going to help to build on these efforts to continue revitalizing the downtown. So I promise you this will be like a 3-minute exercise as long as I get some good responses. And then I will let you go. And then we do not have to meet next week. Thank you. Okay.
So now, everybody, here we go.
The question that we are asking is, what actions are important to maintain momentum in revitalizing? Yes. I saw his coat was still here, so I knew he wasn't leaving. So what actions are important to maintain momentum in revitalizing downtown Dobbsbury? This could be a implementable action, this could be a planning effort, anything that you think on top of what we've done today. So was there a project maybe that the village was considering but didn't necessarily put forward that they think would help? Or,
That's like marketing.
yes, yes,
Small business toolkit.
so that was something, so small.
Toolkit, and also like, kind of like a guide for small businesses, marketing.
In progress.
I mean, I still got an idea from you to check, but.
Okay,
In progress.
Donna, do you have something
Marketing.
for, like, specific marketing?
But to, like the tourism, things for ads and advertising to bring people to the village and Ferry Fest or advertising in the city, hey, we're, 30 minutes away by train, there's a bus to take you to our ferry, but yeah, just a regional marketing.
Like a
Yeah.
destination job.
Destination jobs, I like that.
That Oh, yeah, we can totally just do it in job.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Do it in job, have that.
Something about transportation and like flow of traffic,
Like traffic calming. It like in
not calming,
in what?
not about it. Flow, like traffic flow.
So like getting vehicles easier, getting vehicles, not getting, having vehicles being able to like traverse down the downtown easier.
No, like get
Or-
to the downtown.
So I think like.
My fear is that there's gonna be all this stuff happening and it's gonna get better and people are already already upset about the traffic that exists.
A shuttle bus.
Or, yes, but just, solutions toward,
We're gonna mess up the traffic.
I mean, it's gonna,
Yeah.
it's like people on Sleepy
So
Hollow,
walk
and parents
the-
don't freak out all the time because it's so bad there now, because like the businesses are doing better. So
Yeah.
it's that, like, how do you layer that part on is not a new solution.
No.
So are you
And
thinking,
follow
is there like an improvement to the Route 9 intersection at Cedar Street or
Or
the
like going
five-way
from Ashford
intersection?
to
The
Sawmill.
five-way intersection too, that's.
Mill's the biggest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really Ashford, it's not.
I mean, even just part of that, like destination job marketing thing, talk about the walkability and our Beeline bus service that can take you from one end to the other.
Yeah, it's really like a
How do people don't even realize? we have
comprehensive.
Bus.
And we got a lot of us like going to that.
There's a lot.
And dock from a lot of places.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then really strong project management.
Yeah, but
A lot of projects.
bus is still empty.
That could be like bus stop.
Yeah.
And then what happens, like, you get awarded, but how does the village know the status of the ones that aren't the village projects that get awarded?
So part of that is, I will be the one that will be communicating with the village regularly, like, and I wanna know kind of what's happening. But part of that's just like, it's going through your planning board or, permitting process and so forth.
Right.
Depending, I also talk regularly to the other agencies that have the contracts. I tend to know more than they do because I'm nosy. And I will reach out to project sponsors as well, like if I don't get information from my partner agencies. But yeah, I mean, like, that's information that I share with communities when I find things out, and so forth. So, I mean, I think the goal is like, that the village helps cultivate an environment that is successful for all of these projects that are funded. But, it's very much a partnership with the state and all of the projects as well.
I do have a quick question. So the $4.5 million, does that go to the village and then no, it goes to the individual folks? No. Okay.
Is the list we're gonna see you guys?
Yes.
Oh.
Preparing.
Preparing.
I just want to say thank you. You guys
Yeah.
have been great, very professional, it's been a pleasure working with you guys and welcome to Dobbsbury and kept us in line.
I mean, we went over every meeting, but I mean, other than that, it's been productive.
That's the first one.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was late in that one, but that's okay.
You guys have been great, the whole team has been great. Thank you very much. guys.
Thank
So
you.
round of applause.
All right, well, again, thank you so much for staying over it yet again. If you have any other ideas, please reach out to us in regards to this roadmap to revitalization. I won't keep you here any longer. But yes, as the mayor alluded, at this point in time, we will remove LPC meeting 6 from your calendars. And our communications with you, meaning VHP, myself, this is it. This is the last bit. Well, there's a little caveat to that. So as we're preparing project profiles for the individual projects, we will be sharing them with project sponsors, so that project sponsors could review it and make sure that we are clearly representing their projects in the best manner to then go to the state. And then there's gonna be some communications that we're gonna have to reach out to the village about, just to clean up some things, housekeeping matters, things like that. But in regards to the overall LPC, this is really the last time that we'll be convening all together, but we do encourage you all, when the slate is announced, those projects that are awarded, definitely, continue what you're doing. You are advocating for your community, so continue what you're doing. And thank you all. This has been a very successful, productive LPC. You are not shy at all, and this makes our job so much easier. So,
And I would say it's not even shy, it's like you all were really thoughtful.
Yeah.
And intentional about how you evaluate the project, and that's really amazing questions. And like, that's not always universally the case, and so I just wanna, applaud you on that.
When you come back to town, there'll be outstanding signage for you.
we know where to go. We're gonna know where to go now.
Eligible for future grant, so just one more,
So the current rule is that communities can apply for another New York Corridor DRI, but it has to be for primarily a different area.
sidewalks.
In the boundary.
I want to thank everybody on this committee, because I know you take a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of involvement, purely volunteer. And I know you guys were very enthusiastic, and everybody here jumped at it and said, yes, we're happy to do it, happy to contribute, with no hesitation on your behalf. So on behalf of the village, Christy, myself, Laura, we just want to thank you for stepping up and really putting in the time and energy and effort in it. The village is going to be a better place because of what you've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, first we're on to the next steps. No meeting next week. December 2025 is when the strategic investment plan will be submitted to the state. Spring 2026, late spring, is when those projects that are funded will be announced. Contracting will then begin in the fall. So really nothing for you guys to really worry about. One thing to note, this picture was taken from our sub-consultant. He's a photographer. So when you see the strategic investment plan, when it's published later next year, you're gonna see tons of photographs, a lot of drone photographs.
Awesome. That, I mean, you came and.
Can we use those?
Yes,
Electrical.
we can share, we'll share it with you.
Yeah.
I will share.
Oh, yes, you'll share
Because
it.
they're technically.
Yes, there you go. So yes, we will share. Susan will share them with you.
One thing to note is Christy said, the strategic investment plan, that is not something that is released until the projects are announced. So while you all will see the individual profiles, well, you all won't, but project sponsors will, the entire LPC will not see the strategic investment plan until the projects are announced.
Oh, I see. But at what point is this list announced? That we narrowed down?
Spring. Same time. No, our slate. Oh, yours,
Will that be put on the website?
Yes, so we're gonna plan to put the final slate of projects on the Docs Ferry project website so that the public can then see that this process is done and this is the slate moving forward. So this will be made public to the public, either tomorrow or early next week. And then the meeting summary, the meeting synthesis from the public workshop, everything's gonna be stored on that website, until we have conversations with the village as to what we're gonna do with it. But for the most part, it's all gonna be stored there for now.
And then Christy, you'll be reaching out to the projects that you all elected not to for to let them know.
Yes,
Good luck.
unless anyone wants to report me. So I will be reaching out to them. I honestly think that is it. Again, thank you all so much. It was a really great process, and enjoy the rest of your evening.